Hold on, I gotta set the vibe. I feel like vibes are properly set. I cannot see the camera, so I hope this is like a good angle. I feel like I never showed this out of my room, so if you're wondering about these books, I had to put all the books up because my cat likes to pull them down. That shelf specifically, like, she also has a problem with romance books because that's my romance book shelf, so she also is not feeling romance right now. I feel like this is good. Today I want to do a video on how I feel about romance right now and just how I feel like, because I talked about it in my last video and so many people wanted this video, so I decided just to make it. I was originally going to do my dark romance video next, but so many people kept talking about romance. Like, they also aren't feeling romance right now, so I decided to do this one, and then my next video will be dark romance. Notes right here, so if I keep looking, it's because I'm looking at my notes. And also, I cannot see, like, I cannot tell if this is a good distance or not. I know you're probably like, girl, you're wearing glasses. These are blue light glasses. I do need real glasses, but I don't have an insurance, so we're gonna worry about that another time. I'm a hopeless romantic, and growing up I've always loved romance. It was the only genre outside of John Green books that I read in high school, because I didn't discover I liked fantasy until I was an adult, until I was 20. And if you've never seen a video of mine before, I've been reading my entire life. Ever since I was in the 2nd grade, I've been a huge reader, and then around 6th grade I became an avid reader. So I've been reading for a very, very long time. I've never had an era of like not reading. I've had eras of being an avid reader and then reading sparsely, but I've never had an era where like I don't read. Some of my favorites were a plethora of Wattpad books. This book called Perfect Chemistry, To All the Boys I Loved Before, The Duff. Meet Earl and the Dying Girl, even though I don't really know if that you would consider that a romance. It's kind of like a John Green like variant type of thing, but I loved it. I used to read Wattpad books from the ages of 12 to 15, and the only reason why I stopped is because fan fiction started to make its move into Wattpad. I felt like fan fiction was taking over the app, because originally the app was for people to write their own original stories, and then I just feel like fan fiction started to come and take over it. And I already had my own websites for fan fiction, like AO3, and I was heavily in the Justin Bieber fandom, and he had 2 of his own fan fiction websites, but we're not going to talk about that. And I'm a Virgo, so I like to keep my things separate, so it really started to irritate me when like when fan fiction start to like migrate into Wattpad, so I moved back into reading physically. Also, I discovered John Green when I was 15, so that was the downfall of everything, to be honest. Because I'm a hopeless romantic, romance books have always been a part of me, and I've read everything you could think of that includes romance, whether that be romance genre, sci-fi, fantasy romance, like whatever you think of, I've read that genre. I transitioned from reading YA romance to adult romance back in 2019. I had so much fun reading the YA genre. I just wanted to move out of YA basically, and so I moved into adult romance, and I was having so much fun. I discovered so many things like smut and dark romance back when dark romance used to be normal. Like, not when dark romance was like, you know, you're reading dark romance and you're like, oh, that's not. No, back when dark romance was literally just taboo. Like, it was literally just, oh, this is a little weird, but it wasn't like, ooh. This video will be mainly about contemporary romance because I don't read fantasy romance. Historical romance is usually what I go to get away from contemporary romance, so it's mainly gonna, when I'm talking about these romance books, I might mention like something that applies to fantasy romance, or I might mention a fantasy romance thing here or there, but for the most part I'm talking about just contemporary romance. Anyways, I'm saying all this to say, so you know why I'm so passionate about this topic, and that I'm a long-time lover and reader of romance. Not just hating on romance for the fun of it, or like because I have like some internalized misogyny towards romance or whatever. This is something that I've been a reader of for over a decade. I'm making this video because I am complaining about this because I care. Now that you know that I'm not new to this, I'm true to this. These are my current thoughts. I don't think TikTok necessarily has ruined the genre. It does have a hand in it, but it also helped the genre. So it's not just like, oh, it's plummeting. I think that TikTok has done a lot for romance readers, because people used to feel so ashamed of romance. Not me though, but I feel like rightfully so, people felt ashamed to read romance in public, and like because of the covers or because of how people like they see you reading a romance book and they're like, she's reading a romance book. Romance in general just heavily gets shits on and not taken seriously no matter what. Rather it be books, movies, TV shows, like whatever it is, if it has romance in it, people are gonna find a way to shit on it. as a girl who loves romance, and I'm also in male dominated areas like superhero movies and franchises like Star Wars, not saying that women don't exist in these things. A lot of the people that I gravitate towards in these communities are women, but they still are male dominated, and they never ever fail to let you know that these are male dominated fandom. I've been using the Star Wars show The Acolyte as an example since it came out, because I feel like it plays a good example in a lot of things. And also, I'm still bitter that it got canceled, and it did end off on a note where it kind of doesn't need a second season. Like, if you're interested in watching it, I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you're an enemies to lovers girly and a woman of color. Check it out. If you like Raylo, they're kind of the same thing, it's just a little bit more sauce to it. So The Acolyte, if you don't know what The Acolyte is, The Acolyte is a Star Wars show. It stars Mandela Stenberg and Manny Jacinto, and I really love them together as a duo. The Acolyte was shit on so much because Star Wars fandom hate everything. I'm not just gonna say that they hate diversity or that they hate this or they hate that. They hate everything, and they've been hating everything since the beginning of time. And Disney has been trying to, and they've hated Star Wars since Disney has taken over. There are Star Wars fans who literally don't watch Star Wars anymore because Disney has taken over. And you know what? That's your right. That's your choice. Whatever. But it's the fact that literally Hayden Christensen's character from the Star Wars episode, from the Star Wars prequels that are so popular now, were hated by the fans when they were coming out. Black people and black characters in the show were receiving so much hate while that was going on, simply for being black. Like, this is not something new here. Disney spends so much time like trying to please these fans that will never ever like them. They're literally fucking up an audience that they could have. Star Wars fans review bombed The Acolyte show before it came out, and already decided it was bad because it was created by a queer woman. And the cast is majority people of color. The first few episodes, it didn't really get hype. It was just like, you know, it was very slow. Like, the point didn't really kick in. I was watching it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was really good. Like, I love like space opera sci-fi. And so the fact that this show was giving that, I was like, okay. But then the show takes a turn, okay? I think it's episode 4. I think it's either 4. It's 4. It's the ending of 4, beginning of 5, right? Yes, the end of 4, beginning of 5. The episode takes a huge shift, and all of a sudden women are now talking about this show non-stop because there's like this potential romance that happens, and then the romance does happen. So now women are hyping up this show, and we're watching it, and we're being like, oh my gosh, y'all, this is for the Raylo girls. Like, this is for women of color who are Raylos. Like, this is for people who love romance. Like, this show is so good. Men got so mad. I had men in my comments for days. I feel like if you're not a Star Wars nerd, or if you don't give a fuck, you're probably just watching this and you're like, girl. But I promise it has a point. And I was just giving an example. Men started shitting on women and using the fact that it had romance and be like, oh my gosh, this romance has brought women into this fandom. Star Wars has always had romance. Anakin and Padme have one of the best fucking romance stories ever in the Star Wars universe. Star Wars has always had romance. People see romance and then they like compare it to like women. So it's like, oh, this show has romance, they want women to watch. And it's like, 1, who gives a fuck? 2, who gives a fuck? All in all, that was just an example of how people don't like romance, and how whenever something includes romance, they start to assume that they're trying to like cater to women or get a wider women audience, which, why wouldn't you want other people to feel included? Why wouldn't you want women? I'm so sorry if you don't care about any of this nerdy shit and you're just like, girl, I want you to talk about romance. I'm gonna try to remember to put timestamps so that if you don't care, you can just skip on. My point is that women already have life hard, but women who like romance have suffered more than Jesus. So because of that, I do feel like TikTok has helped romance readers. It's helped women not feel ashamed to read romance in public, women not feel embarrassed to talk about romance on the social media, for women to not feel embarrassed for finding community within each other for reading romance. Like, this has helped. Now, whenever you do pick up a romance book, people automatically think that you're reading smut. I have a video on that, by the way. But like, for me, I read a lot of romance, but I don't really care about smut anymore. Like, I remember when I was like in my early 20s, so embarrassing to say that, but when I was in my early 20s, like, I used to be like, oh my gosh, I want more smut, I want more smut. But then, like, as I got older, I was like, I kind of don't give a fuck. And now I pretty much skim read smut. Like, I won't pick up a book if it has too much smut. I'll be reading a book that has too much smut and I'll close it. Like, not everyone that reads romance is reading it for smut. And so now, even though women can read romance in public, now people think that that's, but even if that is what you think, who gives a fuck? Okay, who gives a flying fuck? actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyways, I just think that authors are putting out content too fast. When publishers see a book that is doing really good, they immediately want the next book. For example, Fourth Wing. I don't support the author anymore, but I did like it when I first read it, and so did everyone else. Second book came out and there were so many complaints about Iron Flame. The fact that it was literally the book Fourth Wing with an Iron Flame dust jacket on it. The fact that there were so many misprints, like there were pages printed in upside down, there were pages printed in like backwards, like there were so many things that were wrong with this book. And it was because publishing, and it feels like, I feel like, I don't know anything about publishing, but I feel like publishing takes so long because there are steps that they take to that you take to publish a book. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it takes a while to push out a book because there is so much that goes on. I literally saw a video of what printing a book looks like, and I feel like books take a year to come out for a reason. I just feel like if you speed up the process that it has, it's bound to be terrible. It's bound to come out bad. Published authors usually publish a book once a year, and I feel like that's too much because once you become popular, you're expected to publish a book once a year. For example, Emily Henry, love her down, but she's expected to publish once every year. And now her new book just got announced, and of course I'm excited about it, and of course I'm gonna read it, and of course I'm probably gonna give it 5 stars because I fucking love her. But when that book got announced, I was just thinking, I'm like, this is so crazy that like she's on, like, this will be like her what, 5th romance book, and you're just expected to come up with a new idea that's going to be so amazing and people are going to give 5 stars and people are going to love and rave about and be like, this is my favorite Emily Henry book, or this is how I rank the books, and you're supposed to come out with that every single year. I know for me, Happy Place isn't my favorite. It's actually like literally ranked last. I just did not fuck with that book at all, and it's just like, damn, imagine if she could have taken a break to really, I feel like if she could have taken a break to really develop that book, I would have loved it so much. But also, that book out there is somebody else's favorite book, so it really doesn't matter. I just feel like, I don't know, I was just sitting and I was thinking, I was like, this is literally insane. I haven't read a romance book all year. I mean, I've read romances here and there, but I haven't, like, I used to just sit there and read romance after romance after romance. Cannot do that. Cannot do that. And I haven't done that for like a year because I feel like everything is just bad. Romance used to be my favorite genre. It used to be literally sci-fi, fantasy, romance. Now it's like sci-fi, fantasy. I don't fucking know because I can't put romance there. I need a 6-month break every single year because everything is so subpar. And I'm a critical reader, so I do feel like sometimes I judge things too harshly. But even my friends who love romance, read for fun, are also feeling the same way. And I mean, the reason why I made this video is because I got so many comments from people saying that they wanted this video because they felt the same way. But I just feel like everything is like cowboy romance, fake dating trope, an attempt at enemies to lovers, small town romance, age gap trope, hockey romance, and then the insane ass dark romance books. And don't even get me started on the diversity. Yes, Black authors are getting published and we're seeing more than ever now, but it's just not being pushed out like white authors. Obviously there's more diverse audience out there, like there are other races out there who also aren't being published. Whenever I'm speaking about Black people, it's because I'm Black and I never want to feel like I'm speaking over anybody else, but also I'm speaking from my experience because I'm not in those other communities, so I don't know, you know, how they feel. Like, I'm not in those communities, so I don't know what goes around in like the conversations or anything like that. Ooh, I'm out of breath and I'm sitting down. I will say, when you see a book talk table, you'll probably see like 1 Black author, 1 Sapphic author, and then 1 author of color. And also, yeah, there'll never be too many authors of color at one. Like, you won't see like a Black author, an Asian author, and then like a Native American author. Like, you're probably gonna see 2 of those, especially if it's a Sapphic on the table. Yeah, you're not seeing a little, yeah. And the tables are big as fuck too, but also that depends on where you go, because the Barnes & Noble that I go to now, I switched over my Barnes & Noble about 2 years ago because I like the layout better, and it's right across the street from a Chili's. So I will say that the Barnes & Noble that I go to now, they have like a Black history table, they have like Black displays, like they are a lot better at it. My camera overheated, sorry. Also, if you've never seen a video of mine before, my camera always overheats after 15 minutes. It's not because I need a new camera or anything like that. It's because this is a vlogging camera. It's not meant to do like sit down videos, but I just cannot afford a DSLR camera. And back when I bought this camera, I really wanted it, knowing that it overheats after 15 minutes, because I love like the glossy filter that this camera gives, not because of the filter or filtering me itself, but just because I love the glossiness of it all. And you can turn it up high. I think I have it on the middle glossy setting, but I just love the like filter it has all around and not like how it makes me look. But they do have more cameras out now. I just can't afford a new camera. But I just wanted to say that just in case you've never watched me before, because I'm always like, yeah, sorry guys, my camera overheated, because I talk a lot and 15 minutes does nothing for me. But I don't mind because I get a little break in between. It's like a job, and I get my little 15-minute break and then I come back and I film my video. So let's just get back into the video. So I feel like people of color are not included in popular tropes right now, and that black indie authors are the ones writing these popular tropes, but they're not getting publishing deals like their white counterpart. Black girls want to see themselves in small town romances. Queer girls want to see themselves in the share bed trope. There is an audience, I promise you. Another reason I stopped reading romance is because I feel like they're just too long. Like, every romance book is 400 to 500 pages. Like, I would understand if authors had something to say, or they would literally simply just make their character do things. There are countless times where I'll be sitting there like reading a romance book and I'll be like, damn, that could have been edited out. Like, it'll be a whole scene, I'm like, ugh, that could have been edited out. Like, that was just so unimportant. And I don't mind long books. Like, I mostly read sci-fi and fantasy. For me, I get bored once the characters get together, because I always feel like they lose the spark. Like, I feel like that banter that they had when it first started isn't always there. I feel like you have to be a really good author to like keep that up. It's like once they get together, they just become like very boring. And also, I don't care about epilogues. Like, I'll read them, but I don't give a shit. I wouldn't even mind reading 400 to 500 page romance books if the plots weren't non-existent. But like, why is the plot non-existent and it's 500 pages? I just don't understand. Like, what are we talking about? There was literally a trend, and I don't know if it's still going on because I don't read romance like that anymore. There was literally a trend where authors were writing 500 page romance books just because it was popular, and also because people who read on their Kindle, like authors who like self-publish, you get paid by the pages. So if you have 500 pages, that's more money than what, you know, you would have usually get if you would have wrote like a 320 pages. But it's like, nobody, personally for me, I don't want to sit here, and it's like, all these romances are subpar anyways. They're not super amazing, and then you have the nerve to like make it 500 pages. But speaking of trends, that's another one of my issues, is that everything just feels like a trend or what's popular. No one is writing weird little books that are kind of niche, but it works. One of my favorite romances that I've read this year is the Ornithologist Field Guide to Love. And this is literally two people trying to find a rare magical bird. And this is historical romance. The plot itself, two people looking, I don't know anything about birds. That is nowhere near my hobby. But this was so fun to read about because it was unique. It was something I've never read before. The romance was actually really good, and I had a time. Authors are on TikTok. They see what the people want. And I get that it's easier, and like, of course you want to write what people want, but I just feel like they're literally looking at what's trending and they're like, okay, well, everyone's liking hockey romances right now, so I'm gonna write a hockey romance. Or everyone's liking cowboy romances right now, so I'm gonna write a cowboy romance. It's not, oh my gosh, I had this passion for hockey romances and people are now writing it, so I'm gonna jump in and write it too. But it just seems like it's just to appeal to a wider audience, to get people to like read your book, which obviously you want people to read your book. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Men cannot write women and women cannot write men, okay? They're just not good at it. I hate dual POV because women always make the man really corny and misogynistic until he meets the female main character. They're basically objectifying women, and then they meet the female main character and they're like, she's very beautiful, I'm gonna get my life together for her. And it's like, this is not Wattpad anymore. Stop that. To me, dual POV is a trend. I know a lot of people won't agree with me because it is popular and it's popular for a reason, and I understand that. I have no desire to know what men think in real life, therefore I don't want to know what they think in fiction. Like, I'm sorry. I'll prefer to not know how he feels about the girl until the love confession at the end of the book. I love that, where it's like, finally you get to the point of the book where they confess their feelings. You've been waiting for this for so long, you don't know how the guy feels, and then he's like, I've been in love with you this entire time. It's been you, it's always been you. And then you go back to the beginning of the book and you see those little signs. And I mean little, because I feel like another problem I have with romances right now is the things aren't subtle. Like, it'll be like, this guy just bought her chocolates and roses because she had cramps, and she's just like, I don't know why he's doing all of this. Like, I don't know. And it's like, girls, obviously because they like you. But when it's like little trivial things and you go back and you read the book and you're like, oh my gosh, the signs were always there. Like, it has always been you. Like, we can see that. That's what I love. And like I said earlier, the plots are non-existent, and it's easier to not have a lot going on when it's a romance, because nobody really expects romance to have a plot. Like, I don't expect romances to have a plot, and that's fine, but it's just like the characters aren't interested either. Like, I always tell people, I am a plot and character person. I need good plot and good character. Now, I can do without good characters, and if the plot is super good, but if the characters are good and there's no plot, I can't do anything with that. Like, I'm not the kind of person who's just like, oh my gosh, this vibe is so good. No, I'm sorry. I'm not about to sit here for 350 pages of any book, of 350 pages, 400 pages of just being like, oh my gosh, I love the characters, I love the vibes. Now, when it comes to short books, absolutely. Like, one of my favorite books I've read so far this year is Graveyard Shift. It's simply because I love the vibes of the characters. And you know what? That book is 100 pages. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. But I'm not about to sit here 350 pages of just vibes. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a cozy fantasy girl. I need things to be happening, because why else am I here? If you're gonna make a book boring, at least have the characters interesting, because I just feel like the characters are either self-inserts or just popular like TV ships that everyone is currently raving about, and the men are like playboys, like have an attitude, and it's like, where are the himbos? Where are the golden retriever boys? Why is everyone so grumpy? Like, I just don't understand. Like, I get the whole grumpy sunshine thing. I'm like, girl, I don't have a man. I think that's very obvious, but I'm always the grumpy person. So like, I would be like I hate the term reverse grumpy sunshine, so I'm not gonna say that shit, but I'm more of like the black cat. I'm a black cat person. I have a black cat. I'm very obviously a black cat golden retriever type of girl, or like even grumpy ex grumpy type of girl. Like, that makes more sense to me. But this whole like grumpy sunshine thing, when the man is the grumpy one, unless the girl is also grumpy, when the man is the grumpy one, he treats the girl and everyone around her like shit. Okay, it's not giving Lorelai and Luke. Okay, because even though Luke, and I think that's what a lot of people are trying to emulate here, and even though Luke was grumpy and he would, you know, cuss out the people in the town or whatever, he still cared for them. He still showed how he cared for his town and the people around him in his actions. That's why they felt so comfortable with talking to him and coming to bother him and coming to irritate him, because they could feel, by his actions, they could understand that they meant something to him. And I feel like a lot of people are just making these grumpy characters assholes. And personally for me, I'm not a fan of one of those guys who are shitty to everyone around them until he meets the girl of his dreams. I want someone who treats other women the same way he treats me. Not romantically, but you know, like, I love when like I'm, you know, going on a date, or I love when I'm like hanging out with someone that I'm interested in and he opens the door for me and there's someone coming behind them and he holds the door open for them as well. I want someone like that. I don't want somebody who holds the door open for me and then closes it in somebody else's face. That's not a gentleman, and that's showing me that you only treat me with respect because of the fact that I'm with you. No, I want someone who respects women, and that's an issue I feel happens a lot in these grumpy ex sunshine like relationships. I also want to touch on the whole character self-insert thing that I read earlier, because a lot of books that are being written right now are fan fiction, and honestly, that's fine. I enjoy them. You know, they're fine for what they are. I read fan fiction. I have no problem with fan fiction being published. Hell, more fan fiction. Let's publish more fan fiction. My issue comes in with the fact that these characters are so obviously underdeveloped because they are written about previously existing characters, and if you have no idea who the character is, you're not gonna know anything about them. And like, yeah, obviously if you know the character, you're gonna know their whole backstory and all this stuff, but if you have no idea who this character is, you're not gonna understand why they do the things that they do or why they are the way they are, and the personality is gonna come off like very bland, very self-insert, very much, I mean, I think like if you read the book and then, you know, somebody's like, that was fan fiction, you would probably like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because the characters are not developed. And that's another huge problem I have with romance. My final point is that I just think that authors are lazy now. And I don't think everyone is. I just think a lot of them are, but not everyone. And like I said in my last video, a lot of readers are new readers and they don't really have a standard of like romances and what's good and what's bad. And I know this is like, you know, it's objective, but also at the same time, a lot of these authors are bad, and like everyone who's been reading for a long time can be like, oh girl, that's bad, but they don't know that because they haven't been reading for a long time, or maybe they don't give a fuck. It really doesn't matter. But authors who suck are being told that they're good. They're being given 4-star ratings. They're being published books that they don't deserve. They're observing what the audience wants and writing based off trends. They're writing for what works for other authors, and it feels like you're reading the same book over and over and over again. Just because these two authors have a really popular hockey romance, now I need to write a hockey romance because that's what's popular right now. And the book that I want to write kind of does fit into this hockey romance. So I'm just going to write it because that's what everybody is reading right now. And it's like, that's fine. But at the same time, it feels like a cop-out. But before I end this video, I just want to say that everything is my opinion. These are just what I observe. This is not fact. This is literally, my video essays are not to teach anyone anything. They're literally to open up discussion. I just like to talk, to be honest. And I felt like, why not utilize that by making video essays? These are things that I think about very often, and I just think it's fun to have these conversations with my subscribers, or people who are new, or people who don't even subscribe to me. Like, maybe they just also have the same opinion about these conversations. But I just want to say that these are my opinions. These are not fact. So if you don't agree with me, that's fine. And you can also tell me that in the comments. Just don't have an attitude, because I know I've been getting a lot of viewers, and a lot of y'all don't know me, and a lot of y'all don't know that I will sit and argue with you in the comments, okay? So be kind. Thank you for watching this video. Please feel free to comment how you feel, and my next video will be the dark romance video, so if you're waiting on that, that'll definitely be next. But thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.